Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. So you guys are getting another video this week, feeling more inspired than I have been recently. So in this video, I wanted to share kind of a little bit more about what my life is kind of like, how I see things, where some of this information comes from that I talk about. So it does come from my own experiences and the things that I see in my dreams, so when I'm asleep at night. So just want to talk a little bit about kind of how my life is, and then a little bit about, I'm going to share a story about something that I might see in a dream. And it's normally, or a lot of the time, it's like a spirit that has has died, or like the body has died, the spirit's still there, but I'm seeing these things and I'm feeling everything they're feeling as if I am them. They show me like a first person perspective, so when I wake up, it's like, oh my god, I'm so glad that was a dream, because it's like I'm seeing, it's like I feel and see what they felt and saw, so it's like I'm seeing myself die constantly. Even though it's not actually my stuff, but yeah, it's definitely a little stressful. So there's nothing. So there is kind of like this healer archetype, in humanity. There's always been the like the medicine man, medicine woman, the seer, things like that. It's always kind of been one of our archetypes. Those types of people I feel like have always existed, because I feel like that's a lot of the times how the higher power, the divine, is communicating with us by showing us visions, showing us things in dreams to help, progress society, help people. Or, maybe in caveman days it was like, oh, I had a dream about where we can find some water, before the whole tribe dies. So that's kind of where I think purpose it serves. There is this quote I like by Phil Good. That's who I saw that it was attributed to, so I'm not 100% sure if that's the right person, but that's what I saw when I researched it. So it says, doctors study medicine, teachers study education, and healers study darkness. So it's almost like, the healer is forced into this kind of dark, I like to call it an abyss. It's like a black hole. And again, it's like we don't really know what happens at the other end of the black hole. Do things just disappear and they're gone forever? Is it some kind of wormhole? Like, we don't really know, right? So the healer is sort of taken, and they are forced into the black hole, and they're just kind of like going through, and they're like, I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to maintain my sanity and my spirit, but I'm getting pushed deeper and deeper into the black hole, and I don't know how deep it goes. Does it ever stop? So I believe that in this universe we are gifted with light. So without getting love and light about it, what I mean by that is, like, I think in some universes, universes can be created dark, right? So they're not given the gift of light. They don't know what their own soul, their own kind of like, how do I describe it? They have to discover light in its entirety, okay? Whereas we're just given the gift of seeing light, but then we're inevitably going to lose it, because that's suffering. So it's sort of like the universe, it gives us our light, it gives us our soul, so we always have something to come back to, but it's not just gonna, like, we're not just gonna preserve it like in a glass jar, it's gonna become lost. So that's kind of I believe, like, the healer's role in society is, how do we first of all let go of the fear of the abyss and this black hole that never ends and goes on infinitely? How do we find the light again? How do we find the pieces of ourselves, of our soul, that we know are there, but are they too far away that we can never find them again? So then the other big part of that is they have to have faith that in this search, or in the process, they're not just going to become dark, give into the darkness. I already lost major parts of myself. I don't know who I am anymore. I'm just going to throw the rest of it away, and I'm just going to become like a vampire. I'm going to become the thing that destroyed me, and I'm going to go on like this infinitely. And at that point, it's a lot easier to do that than to actually do the healing work. Because again, people are going to, so the spirit would feel justified in doing that. Like, oh, well, this was done to me. I'm going to do this to other people now. And I don't feel like I should have to work this hard to preserve my own light, to preserve my own soul. And so they don't. Of course, I'm sure there are some, not everyone does that, but that seems to be kind of the predominant process that I've seen in society. I feel like there are other civilizations in the universe that are more advanced than that. But not every advanced civilization is necessarily good, though. The thing about our light's being, it's being forced through the darkness, but it's not going to die. So that's part of the fear of the abyss, is like, I'm just going to get lost in the abyss forever, never going to find myself again, so I'm just going to give up, because I'm already, my spirit is dead, my soul is dead. What's the point, right? But even through the eternal abyss, we can be reborn, because we can bring back the pieces of ourselves and rebuild, return to, the primordial soup, return to the creation, realize that the pieces we lost aren't just gone forever, because things don't just disappear infinitely. They're still in the universe. They just need to be retrieved. So I think that's the idea of studying darkness, where it's like, where does the darkness stop? Does it ever stop? Is it infinite? Is the light also infinite? Is one stronger than the other? And I think one is more destructive than the other, and one is a lot easier to lose, but there's also, great power in finding our way back. And that's sort of like the process of, the circle of the going to the underworld, being reborn again and again, until I feel like, we're enlightened past this universe. But anyway, so now I'm going to move on to this story. These are things that I see when I'm asleep, when I'm dreaming. So basically what will happen is, as I'm having the dream, I'm seeing as if I am this spirit, like as if I was this person, and I'm feeling everything that they were feeling, that they're showing me in that moment. So it's sort of like, it feels like it's happening to me, right? So I wake up, I'm like shaking, I'm sweating, I'm terrified, and I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm so glad that was a dream, that it isn't actually happening to me. But then there's always that moment where I'm like, okay, so then is someone here? And then the spirit will sort of step forward, and then sometimes they're crying, sometimes they are just curious about me. I'm not really exactly sure how they find me, but they're always kind of different. So in this one, I'll sort of show you exactly what I was like. I'll tell you basically the story of the dream. So this is someone that died in a plane crash, and it was one of those small, passenger planes, not a commercial plane, so the really small ones that I feel like you're most likely to crash in. So he showed me a scene of someone coming. So sometimes the things are a little bit metaphorical, but it gets more literal in a second. So he showed me a scene of someone coming to take away my cat. And then this person comes up to me, they say, thanks for raising him, we'll take him back now. And I'm like, what? I'm not going to give him up. Like, I've had him since he was a kitten. I've had him for years. This is my cat. You can't just come and tell me that, thanks for raising him. We'll take him back now. Your contract is up. Because pets are like family, right? And I just didn't understand. I was like, how can you come take him? Like, this is my cat. I'm supposed to just like give him away, right? So then after that, it jumps to a new scene. I'm on the ground, I'm on the grass on the side of a road. A car pulls up and almost hits me. I kind of like jump out of the way, like terrified, right? And the driver gets out of the car laughing, and he's like, "Don't be ridiculous. I wasn't going to hit you." And I'm like, "Okay, wow, thanks a lot, friend." So it's actually my friend. I'm a little bit, ticked off, but I get into the car next to him, and then we drive to, the small passenger plane airport. I'm not really sure what those like really small airports for like small airplanes are called, but that's what it was. So then I kind of have a bad feeling about it, but reluctantly I get in the plane. So I get in the plane as the passenger, right, sitting up front. Those like headsets and stuff, how they have. So we're flying, everything seems fine, and then suddenly, all I see is trees, fire, there's crashing, people are screaming, and then suddenly I'm above the scene looking down, and the plane is below me. It sort of looks like the size of like a shark, right? So that's how far up it is. If like this is a small passenger plane and it's about the size of a shark, so that's how far above it I am. And then it bends and wiggles like this. Like it actually, the metal actually bends as if it's like a fish. And then I think to myself, like, can planes bend and wiggle like that? Like, that doesn't seem right. Okay, and then I see the plane, it's destroyed, and only the pilot survived, and then I, realize I am dead, okay? So that was the dream. I wake up, and I'm like, oh my God, I literally just thought I died, because I'm, constantly seeing myself die in these dreams, and it's, kind of stressful to wake up to, but like I said, my heart is pounding, I'm terrified, I'm relieved, and and then I see the spirit, and I'm like, okay, there's the spirit here. I can't remember if he was like crying or not. I don't really remember what he said or anything. It's just like, usually I ask like, is someone here, and I'll pretty much able to tell right away. So I kind of talked to him. He says he was only 19 when this happened to him, so this is like what I'm seeing, like basically this part of his life is what he was showing me, how he died. So, a lot of the times, like when people die, one of the positive parts of death, obviously this would be death from natural causes, not necessarily if you end your life prematurely, but you get to see everyone you lost, right? So sometimes I'll ask the spirits, like, oh, is there anyone on the other side that, you want to see again? Grandparents, a dog, anyone? And he's like, nope, all my grandparents are alive. And I'm like, you're 19 and all your grandparents are alive? Wow, that's nice. And he's like, kind of made a joke about people having kids earlier or younger in the South. No offense intended, I'm just repeating what he said. And, he's not able to let go of this life. He doesn't really want to move on. Doesn't really want to go to heaven because, again, it's like, there's no one I really want to see there, right? And then he also didn't want to go to heaven because then he has to be around all the squares, and it sounds so boring. I'm like, okay, this is going to be, I'm not really sure how I'm going to get him to cross over, but just have to go with it. And then there's that song, it's called Suicidal Thoughts by the Notorious Big, where it's like, I don't want to go to heaven with all the goody goodies. And he's like, I don't want to go to hell either, though. And I'm like, okay, so how am I going to get you to cross? So finally, we kind of like talked, and I realized that, he couldn't leave, he couldn't let go of this life, because he didn't feel like his life had meant anything. He's only 19. He didn't really feel like he got to accomplish anything. So that was what he was trying. Those were the feelings that he was having me feel and showing me when I saw that dream, or that scene in my dream where my cat is just being taken away. Like, what do you mean my cat's being taken away? Like, I've raised him since he was a baby. Like, this is my cat. You can't just take him. I'm not just gonna like let him go. So those were some of the same feelings that he was having, once he died. And he's like, I can't just like move on. What do you mean I have to move on? I'm only 19. I can't just leave, right? I can't just like start over. What do you want me to do? Go to heaven? hang out with all the goody goodies. so then I kind of explained to him, like, every life has a purpose, but we can't really know what that purpose is until we cross over, because only then is everything revealed to us about our life, the purpose it served, and the bigger scheme of things, right? And then this is the part where he kind of started like sobbing and saying how it's not fair, he doesn't, he's not ready to be dead. And then he kind of was saying to me, like, I don't know how you live like this, like, it's like you're already dead. How do you like deal with this, with like spirits and stuff? Like, don't you want to be in the world of the living? And I'm like, yes, that is the goal for most people. But I have to do this because this is part of my purpose. And, but even I don't know what the purpose of my life is until, it's my time to cross over. So, eventually I did get him to cross over after that. And then I actually got another person I had crossed over, a young, pretty girl, to sort of greet him as he was crossing over, because it's like when you die, it's really hard to cross over sometimes. If A, you're really young, it happened really fast, and B, there's no one on the other side to sort of like welcome you that you would recognize from this life. So I'm like, oh, look at that girl. Like, I think you have a friend, like, you should go see her. So it was a great moment because I was able to connect a past soul I've crossed over to a present soul, and like make him feel like he, his life, or not, I guess life, but his journey would continue, and that once he crossed over, the purpose of his life would be revealed to him, because there's a lot we can also do on the other side that we don't really think about necessarily when we're talking about like heaven. As far as how he was thinking about it, it's like, oh, now I have to go to the pearly gates and, play a freaking harp all day. And I'm like, no, it's not really like that. It's really more like you get to, sort of see everything about this life and how it affected you and, everyone that you interacted with. And there's also like different work you can do on the other side. Like, for example, you can, if children die, especially like I was saying, if you're really young and like you don't know anyone that's died, so there's no one to greet you from this life that you would recognize when you cross over. So so sometimes like the girl did for him, that was part of his purpose, because now he's able to help children who died and don't have anyone to be there for them, because he knows what that feels like. So now he can serve that role. So his life did serve a purpose, and our lives always kind of serve a purpose. So that, I guess, to get into the story of the girl, this video is already kind of long. That was sort of a sadder story with the girl that I crossed over. So that was a really weird dream. That dream was actually extremely traumatic for me. I don't want to say traumatic, I guess, but it was like, it like shook me like to my core in a sense. So basically what happened is, again, I'm feeling everything they're feeling. They're showing me it as if I was them. So this is, again, a different dream from a like totally different time, like a year ago, maybe. I think like a year ago, but it was before the plane crash guy. So there's this girl. The first scene I see, she's like locked in a prison cell in a basement. She's all by herself. It's like solitary confinement. And then this guy comes in. He has like a milkshake or like a smoothie or something, and he's like, "Oh, do you want this?" And she's like, "Yes." So then he lets her out of like basically this cage, like a very small prison cell, and then she's able to go back out into the world. And then he suddenly starts like talking to her, treating her like his girlfriend. She's trying to remember why she was in prison in the first place, but she can't. Sort of has a sneaking suspicion that this guy, who's a police officer, framed her for some crime, and now she's like his prisoner, basically, but there's nothing she can do because he's a police officer. So then he starts like crying or something, and is like, oh, I didn't pass my chief inspection. And I'm like, I didn't really know what that meant in the dream, because I don't really know what that is, but I looked it up, and there is some kind of like inspection or something that you have to go through to get promoted. So basically he was saying that he didn't get the promotion, and then she realized that she would kind of always be his prisoner and have to be like his girlfriend in this life, unless she wanted to go back into like solitary confinement for the rest of her life. So that was sort of what she ended up having to do. She was basically just this police officer's prisoner, framed for a crime, nothing she can do to escape it, because he'll just find her, and then if she gets caught, she just goes right back into solitary confinement for the rest of her existence. So I woke up, and like I was I don't know, I was just so just felt like so scared, honestly. And then she was there, and I'm like talking to her, okay, well, yeah, that would be really traumatic, like, why don't you want to cross over? And she says, well, what if he's there? Like, it looked like it was, based on what I was seeing, it looked like it was before the 50s, so she must have been dead for a while. But she looked like pretty young, so I'm not exactly sure how she died. That part wasn't really relevant, but that was why she doesn't want to cross over, because she doesn't want to see him again, right? She doesn't want to, if, heaven is eternity, which is normally how they see it, why would I want to, like, go somewhere where he is? Then I have to be with him for not just this life, but all of eternity. And she also felt like if she was to cross over, she would have to forgive him to go into heaven, and she didn't want to forgive him. She's like, I'm not forgiving him. I don't care if I don't go to heaven, but like, I don't want to see him ever again. And then I was like, I kind of was like, yeah, that's understandable, but I'm not really feeling like he's there. I don't really sense him there. What I was seeing was that, I don't know if I should say this, but when I saw his soul, I saw that it was someone that I had already met. So I knew that his soul had already reincarnated, and he was already back on the planet, and that he wasn't going to be on the other side. I didn't tell her that because I didn't really think it was helpful, but I just said, yeah, I don't see him there. I don't think you need to forgive him. He's not there. And then she's like, well, how do you know that? And I'm like, well, I mean, I'm talking to you, right? And then the other thing I said was, this guy had you as his prisoner your whole life, and he still does. You're stuck here. You're in between worlds. You're not on the other side. Like, you're still his prisoner. He's still controlling you. Like, you still aren't free. And then at that point, she was kind of like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Like, I don't need to be stuck here. Like, I'm just, all the fear is what was, kind of holding her back from crossing over and being at peace. So after that, she decided to cross over, and, he wasn't there, and everything was fine. And then she was able to help me with this guy, the plane crash guy that I told you about, because she was like able to come meet him at the crossing, sort of like a tunnel. She was able to come meet him at the end of the tunnel. So it is kind of a big part of what I do, and it's kind of unexpected a lot of the time. So I just wanted to share that part of my work, and I hope everyone has a great day. All right, bye.